After getting caught red-handed attempting to employ shady and underhanded monetization tactics on numerous occasions, Destiny 2 has been in what I can only describe to be full-on disaster mode. Just recently, we learned that prominent Destiny YouTubers and streamers are moving away from doing coverage on the game, as many found it doesn't offer enough substantial content to justify the kind of coverage they do or to make their work fulfilling, and as audience interest in the Destiny franchise has waned significantly in the 5 months that Destiny 2 has been out. There is no better indicator of this than Twitch stats, with January 2018 showing that Twitch viewership averaged 4,000 to 7,000 viewers on Friday afternoons compared to 14 to 17,000 for Destiny 1 a year ago. Hell, a more recent graph will show that numbers are even worse, with average viewership hovering closer to the 2000s. Destiny 2 isn't just quickly losing interest from the gaming community, it's also losing the faith of analysts and investors. A recent article from CNBC detailed how a Wall Street analyst sent a note to his clients titled "Destiny is not in a good place," in which he described how Bungie's bad design decisions, insidious microtransactions implementation, poor communication, and lack of transparency has paved a path towards waning interest and disappointing live service revenue. The analyst even went as far as to say that with all of the problems the game currently faces, he doesn't believe it will be able to recapture engagement and recover, especially now that there are competing games in the genre like the updated Division and Warframe out there. But as if all of this wasn't enough, not only is Destiny 2 quickly losing interest from both the gaming community and investors, the game is also losing many of its players. The trend was spotted by members of the Destiny subreddit, who posted threads in which they shared stats from website trials.report, showing that as of late, the game has had the lowest participation for the weekly Trials of the Nine PvP game mode in franchise history. In this post, published on January 18th, 2018, for example, it was noted how in the previous weekend, the number of unique players who had played Trials of the Nine only peaked at 141,126, which was lower than Destiny 1's lowest participation during the tail end of its life cycle just 2 days prior to Destiny 2's launch, which had peaked at 145,035 unique players. It was also noted how in Destiny 1, within the same 5-month time period following the release of the Taken King expansion as Destiny 2's current 5-month time period since launch, Trials of the Nine was played by a significant 450,000 unique players. So, long story short, as far as player participation goes, Destiny 2 is way worse off in its first few months than Destiny 1 was towards its last few months. Things went from bad to worse in the most recent Trials of the Nine, which one Reddit user reported on January 30th, 2018, to have only achieved 94,970 unique players, marking the first time that the event hasn't reached 100,000 unique players in franchise history. Numbers are particularly abysmal on PC, with one user noting that only 9,000 unique players participated in Trials of the Nine on the platform. Now, keep in mind that these numbers only represent unique players who did that particular activity, so they don't account for players who spent time doing other stuff besides Trials of the Nine. In other words, the number of unique Trials of the Nine participants doesn't indicate the total number of unique players who are playing Destiny 2 as a whole. But that doesn't mean that the big drop-off in Trials participation isn't indicative of waning player engagement, participation, and interest. You know a franchise is in trouble when a highly anticipated sequel is worse off in the first half of its launch year than the prequel was in its worst days. A big part of this can likely be attributed to the fact that at least Destiny 1 had the benefit of being something new, whereas by the time the sequel came out, the novelty of a shared world action shooter has worn off and we have seen others occupy spaces of the genre. Which is why why it was so important for Bungie to nail Destiny 2, to refine the genre, and to prove that they've learned from past mistakes. But instead, the sequel ended up doing the complete opposite by regressing in the most important aspects. Ask any Destiny 2 player and most will unanimously agree that Destiny 1 was a far better game, especially in its later years. Not to mention that Destiny 2 tried to swindle its players and got caught doing so one too many times, far worse than anything found in the first game, resulting in a loss of trust between community and developers. This has all culminated in a situation in which content creators, analysts, and investors, and players alike are all labeling Destiny 2 as a lost cause. This whole situation also doesn't bode well for people's expectations of Destiny 3. At least with Destiny 1, one could argue that this was Bungie's first foray into this ambitious idea of an ever-evolving shared world shooter, but there is no excuse with Destiny 2. There is no reason it should have launched the way it did, not after all the feedback that they got from the first game, and there is no reason that Bungie should have screwed over players at every turn the way they did. It begs the question, if Bungie can manage to botch 2 game launches in a row, how do we know that this won't happen a third time? Fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me, and all that. Anyway, there you go folks, an update on the current state of Destiny 2, a game with a solid foundation whose potential was snuffed by Bungie and Activision's greedy intents. Things are not looking good, and I think at this point, nothing short of a miracle will put Destiny 2 back on its tracks. Not to mention that Bungie will really have to go out of their way to convince us why we should even look forward to a third game in a disgraced series at this point. These are just one man's opinions anyway. I'd love to hear what you think about all this in the comments below. With that, I would like to end this news update. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you found this video insightful, and if you enjoy my content, consider supporting me on Patreon. It is completely optional, but it will go a long way in helping this channel grow. And to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.